to Art. Conversations about the creative process.
With your host, Christy Gordon.
Today I'll be talking with the amazing Brooklyn-based artist Michela Martello about how she uses dreams and inner knowing to inspire her work. And Michela was born in Italy and moved to New York City in 1998, where she's been in numerous shows, including Pen and Brush Gallery in New York City and Galleria Giovanni Bonelli in Italy. So welcome, Michela. It's so good to have you.
Thank you so much, Christy. Thank you for having me. It's so nice to chat with you.
Oh, you too. And I remember when I first saw your work, a mutual friend of ours posted it on Instagram, and I was like totally blown away by it right away. It was that long hanging, almost like a tapestry of some, it looked a bit like the Venus Botticelli, but it was like very like different too, with beautiful patterning, and it was so gorgeous. And I remember reaching out to you on Instagram and we planned a studio visit. But yeah, the kind of ornate like patterning that you do, like the flowers and some of the patterns that you do, is like one of the things that first really struck me. And I spent some time in Italy, and I know you grew up in Italy. I was wondering, like, what, if you can think of like what your influences, what kind of influence that had on you, like growing up in Italy.
Yeah, well, of course, that piece that you're referring to, it's from one of the Botticelli's Venus. So it's very much Italian. And yeah, but I wouldn't say that Botticelli was my major inspirations. It's more like Giotto, if I have to point out from like ancient art history from Italy. Giotto was and is one of my major source of inspiration. There are some elements in Giotto's work that are, especially in regards of the time that he was doing his applying his visions in the arts, that are really not within the fashion of middle age, late middle age time. So it feels like that even me not knowing what he was doing, it feels like that he was really attempting to be an artist and not just a commissioned decorative painter, because at that time every painter were commissioned mostly by church, by pope, by the major senior of the city to embellish the city they were living in or sent to another near city. But he was really trying to express something that it was very personal, and I guess the reason why it was very such a strong inspiration for me still now is that in his work you can see how he tried to combine a mystical representation within the everyday life of the normal human being that was surrounding his environment.
True.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's true, right? Yeah,
it is true. I don't think I totally had thought of that before. But that's part of the quality that I was really drawn to in your work, is this kind of mystical like quality, and then the focus on women too, and then all the patterning and detailing and stuff. Yeah, and I know you also have been like influenced by your background with Tibetan Buddhism too. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that too?
Oh, wow. Don't get me started. And that actually, it's interesting because the time of Giotto's frescoes are parallel with some of the most beautiful frescoes that are from Tibet, from Tibetan monasteries. Wow. And kind of, it seems like they were using the same pigments, the same fading colors. And mm, I don't know, sometimes I like to think about, I believe in karma. I like to think about that. I had past life in Tibet, and
Oh.
because when I look at those frescoes from Tibet, it feels like I'm home. I
Mm.
recognize some of the narrative, even though they are very esoteric, very far away from my Italian upbringing. Still, they feels like very familiar.
Ooh.
That's probably why I'm so attracted by those um, images, but also I started studying Tibetan Buddhism when I started around 15, 16 years old, when I started to read the first books. And again, it felt like home. But previously of that, I had a dream, and that dream for me was the moment the connection with that kind of culture or philosophy manifested as something that belongs to my history, I would say.
Yeah.
I kept studying and then practicing, and then no, more than I kept studying, not really practicing, and then I was searching a lot with what was available in Italy, which wasn't that much because there's a very strong Catholic environment, but there were some opening with the esoteric world, the Eastern philosophy. And at the same time, I was drawing all the time. And I knew since I was 3 years old that I was an artist, or that I was going to paint. When they ask, when they ask you when you are a child, what do you want to become?
Yeah.
They tell me that my first word, not my first words, but my first words when they asked me that question was, I want to become a paintress. So I was always, drawing and dreaming about painting, even though I was just drawing. So, and while reading and studying from Eastern philosophy, I was combining things without any particular reason, without any agenda, just something that talked to me, and then I kind of create like an internal expression, and it kept developing in that way.
Mm. Oh yeah, that's really interesting. And what is your process like now? Like, how do you kind of come up with your ideas for your paintings? Yeah, where do you kind of find inspiration and how do you kind of work with it and internalize it? What does it look like? Yeah, your process.
I guess it's how can I say? Well, you are an artist too, so it's not easy to have a clear
Totally.
vision of.
Yeah, yeah. It's true.
um, it's there are a lot of internal demons, internal fears, and insecurity that are part of my creative process in order to create a cathartic manifestation that it ends up being as a painting. So what I try to do when I work, and it comes pretty spontaneous, it's first of all I'm happy. I mean, it feels like I am where I need to be, so it's good. I don't have doubt I should be anywhere else. So that gives me a feeling of belonging. And then I start to work with these, as I said, internal demons or fear, insecurity, combined with some divine, I would say, divine inspirations or images that are arising in my dreams, because I dreams every night, and there are sometimes visions that are unbelievable. So it feels like this is something that I'm channeling, and I have to work with this and create a new artwork. And of course, those are not nightmare; those are beautiful visions. It's like channeling something that comes from another dimension within my dimension, that it's more like materialistic, and again, like with the obstacles, try to combine these two opposite, and searching for a lot of symbols, and creates like a new narrative, or with maybe piece that comes from my upbringing, combined with the Eastern symbology, and at the same time I'm working with these two opposites. It's like a dualistic war happening to create a new narrative that eventually will give me more balance.
Ooh, I love that.
I love that too. It's and yeah, that's why also I like your work very much, because I always see this darkness and light combined.
Yeah. Oh, and that's totally why I love your work too, because you're kind of combining like, yeah, the Eastern and the Western, and I don't know, getting these mystical like influences, esoteric sort of undertones. Well, can you give an example? So are you saying that like, do you get almost like visions in your dreams, or how does it come through in your dreams? Like my dreams seem to be more like storylines. I don't know. I don't know if I too often, sometimes I have gotten a dream that'll give me like an epiphany about how to resolve something in a painting, but I don't seem to be super visual. I'm just curious, do you get like a vision, or how does it come through? Or do you have any examples that you would want to share about a specific instance?
I just came back from Arizona, and that place is amazing for dreaming. Just Grand Canyon is like a huge portal. So I have like lots of examples, but yeah, places are very important to channel dreams. Actually, my experience. But for instance, I recently dreamed of a friend that was holding my hand, and she was wearing green, a beautiful emerald green, and she was covered by scorpions.
Oh, yeah.
That for me, it's like, whoa, that's a fantastic image.
Yeah.
Or another image that appeared, it was that's so beautiful, like a woman, her head was completely black, and the body was divided in 3 or 4 blocks with horizontal lines, and the colors were very much connected with the color of the earth, like brown, beige, sage green, and then when I woke up, it felt like a painting. And so these images, let's say if I am awake and I try to to do sketches, I could never reach like that. So it's in my dream that these visions appears, and then I elaborate them, and I make a painting. And sometimes I wouldn't say nightmare, but I know there's some process happening while I'm dreaming. I had a dream years ago of a woman that she was hanging from the ceiling, and her body was completely distorted, like that famous image of Louise Bourgeois. It's like she made a sculpture. It's called Hysteria. Then I called my painting Hysterica. It's a woman that she's like doing the bridge, like
Oh, yeah.
it was something like that, but in my dream she was like completely bended backwards, and her hands and her feet were locked together and hanging like a piece of meat.
Yeah,
Blood was
yeah.
coming down from her, but she was fuchsia. She was pink, and this pink was super vivid but lovely. It had nothing to do with like a piece of meat hanging,
Mm.
blood um,
Yeah.
coming from her body. So that again was a very strong image that I'm pretty sure it was like there was some how can I say some deeper work that I was doing within my dream,
Totally.
which I still don't understand, but
Yeah.
of making the painting that is not finished yet, it was like for me it was like a completion um, of that process.
Oh, that's so interesting. And so what's your process like once you've had a dream like this? Do you do like a little sketch afterwards, like anything in I don't know, little teeny thumbnail or sketch so you can remember it? And then I'm just throwing some ideas at the end. Then I know you started on the painting and you work big. And well, I guess I have two questions. So the first is if you do kind of any little sketches after the dream to kind of remember it, or if you just start on the big one after.
I'm not a big sketcher.
Yeah, yeah.
I have no patience. I'm really like I have to start the work. I have a vision and I want to start immediately.
Oh,
So,
cool.
some like for this one in particular, I did sketches,
Hmm.
and but they're not really. I wouldn't say they're like paramount. Like I wouldn't say that through the sketches I found a solution for my painting. Maybe it's just like sometimes I think, oh, if I do a sketches, I'm more professional.
Sometimes I think that too. But it can also just like record the idea and maybe it helps you figure out the pose a little bit before you like go to the big one, just a teeny bit, or I don't know, does it? I don't know.
Yeah, let's see if it ever happened that while I was sketching, I was really helpful. I think no, it's just the act of
Yeah.
it's almost like honoring that vision, that image, and okay, this is going to be. It's just like opening up uh, the portal of the action.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, it doesn't really make a huge difference because when I finally approach the painting, I usually work a lot on the negative space, like creating
Oh.
an assemblage of vintage materials or throwing paint, throwing water on the negative space until there's um, some energy that is really giving me the first command to start to draw and paint.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. And then as you're working, um, like, are you like, like I know you bring in lots of patterns into your work, or like these really beautiful detail, like ornate sort of things. Are you like looking at any like inspiration as you're doing that, and then combining it with your dream vision, or how? Just like, what are some of the technical like tools, like the way that you support your creative process, so that you can like kind of bring an idea to the level that like the look that you want?
Well, for sure, the textiles and papers and fabrics that I have in my studio are a huge support, and uh, and they suggest how would be the next step. Maybe
Mm.
the next step is completely different from the first suggestion, but or sometimes again, I go back to my I have another book library in my studio, and sometimes I just open a Giotto's book.
Oh, I should
Like,
look at Giotto.
yeah, or Tibetan's wrathful deities.
Ooh, yeah, I love the wrathful deities. You've Tibetan, yeah. Mhm.
Exactly. So
They're
not
amazing.
not that that's the composition of a wrathful deities will be what I'm painting, but it's just some, I don't know. It's if I'm stuck, the process of opening up a book uh, helps a lot. Or again, the patterns that I have on a vintage textile. Um, for instance, one of my last paintings that I like very much, but I don't think people like. But that happened to you when you think, oh
Oh
my
yeah, definitely.
God.
Sometimes it just takes the world a few years to figure it out and realize that but we can tell right away, oh, this is quite good.
It's yeah. What was that? How did I start that one? I don't remember if it was a dream, but it is inspired by Vasilisa, which is a Russian folk story.
Yeah, I've
A
heard of
little
it.
bit, yeah, it's a little bit like Cinderella story. And to make this painting, I used two as a negative. I painted on two vintage textile. One is from India and one is from Japan. And
Ooh.
I overlapped these two textile. So the narrative is it kind of cross the lines between these two textiles. But the Japanese painting, because Vasilisa's story is that she was very beautiful and naive and nice, and she had very nasty, mean sisters that wanted to get rid of her and send her to this very horrible witch. And the witch eventually was meant to kill her, giving her very, very tough tasks that she couldn't overcome. But she finds that in the pocket of her dress, she has a little doll, and the doll suggests her to always say yes to the witch.
Oh.
Yes, always like submitting, and always, submit, how do you say, like instead of fighting, just
Yeah.
let go.
Surrender or something. Yeah.
Surrender. So
Mm.
the Japanese textile has horizontal line, and to me, it suggested me the pocket of the dress of Vasilisa, but also this horizontal line were giving me the idea or the experience of like a sacred geometrical composition that could suggest the come si dice, psychomagic act.
Like a
So,
sacred magic act. Yeah.
just to answer your question, for me, that fabric, that pattern on the fabric was complementing the idea, the inspiration I had for this painting very much.
Totally. And I love how you said it, how in some ways it can happen that it'll kind of tell you the next move, or whatever you put down first will then tell you the next move. I think like a lot of us artists, I love it when that happens, like when the painting starts to kind of dictate. Yeah, you're kind of following the threads that it lays out. Um, yeah. Was there like a pivotal moment for you when you were finding your artistic voice?
It was, when was that? 2005, probably. I'm not sure about the date, but because I used to be illustrator for children's book for many years when I finished school in Italy, and I was also working for an English publisher because I wanted to study painting, but the Academy of Painting in Milano, Brera, was always closed for political strike. So,
Oh.
in order not to lose my ear, I enrolled into this Istituto Europeo di Design, where I studied illustrations for 3 years, which was the closest thing to painting, but in smaller size. And I like the whimsical energy, so it was good to work also with kids. But at one point, I knew I had to break through and paint bigger size and not be so concerned about sending the right message, because it was for kids, so you couldn't really expand an expressive personal vision.
Totally.
So that kind of started to push harder and harder. But it wasn't until I painted a paint, which again, I think it was 2000, between 2004 and 2007, that's when I felt that I was really using my illustrative experience, merging into something more artistic, where I wasn't worried about how people would perceive. Would they perceive in the right way? Let's make sure it's not the wrong way. I couldn't care. It was more, it was really, and for me, that was like a pivotal moment. And the painting is called Nothing is What It Seems.
Ooh.
Since then, I felt more free. I felt more free and careless.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and like for you too, like I think at one point you were painting more on like stretched canvases, and now you, like you mentioned, the fabrics and the textiles that you use, and the can't like the shapes aren't even always square, they're almost a bit more organic, and just that sort of format that you're using, and the unstretched canvas, it's sort of fragile, it's kind of feminine, and it's like really beautiful. Yeah, more organic, less boxed in. I don't know, like, how did you kind of discover that kind of format for yourself, or how did you know that it felt so right? It does feel so right. I don't know.
Yeah, thank you, Christy. You're right. It feels so right. Two reasons. First, I was tired of stretching my canvas.
Yeah, it's a pain.
I mean, not the first reason, but it's a huge part of that. And I kind of started to communicate and connect very much with this material that I found in the street or in my travels, mostly textiles. And so I started to collect them, and I felt I want to paint on it. Really, they called me. It was really like a,
Yeah.
and then while I was painting on this textile or different, either plastic, or I thought to myself, why should I stretch them? There's no need to stretch them. Who says a real painting has to be stretched? And I started to look at, ancient tapestry, how beautiful they look like, and still they give you a very strong experience. So I just let it go, and it worked. It was, and I really like also the aerial factor. I like
Yeah.
I also like that people can have a feeling that they are allowed to interact with an artwork. I don't mind if you touch the work. I don't mind it at all. And probably a stretched painting is more intimidating. I don't know. I mean,
Totally.
and since then, so far I never went back to stretching unless someone asked me to stretch a particular painting. Like a collector, if they wanted to have it stretched, it's okay. I wouldn't say no. It's okay.
Totally.
But in
Yeah.
process, my creative process, also because then maybe I wanted to cut to create another shape, not like a rectangular or I want to create waves or cat or
Totally. Yeah, all those things like all kind of add together and make your work totally recognizable and distinctive. You know, the format, and you have sort of certain colors that you often use, and the treatment, of course, and the concepts and themes. And yeah, it's like so distinctive and beautiful and unique. Maybe just my last question, just about how often you work. Like, do you have like a regular like studio practice, and how do you kind of do, is there anything that you do to make it sacred when you're working, like I don't know, meditating, burning incense, that kind of thing, or how do you make it sacred, or do you make it sacred in some way?
um I Okay, first, how often I work. I try to be in my studio every day. It
Yeah.
doesn't every day I work, not as much as I would like to. But if I am on a series of work or project for an exhibition, I could work also 8 hours a day,
Yeah,
and that's a lot.
it is.
That's a lot. Not that 8 hours a day it's a lot, but when it's
Yeah, it's a lot to work that
the,
long. It's rare.
but sometimes it's just okay to be in the studio and
Hmm.
wash the floor, things like that.
Yeah.
And I am not very good on creating a sacred space.
Hmm.
I am like, it's very messy, and I like to include everything, and it's also part of my practice. There's no, I mean, I, it's like everything has its own spirit. So even the dirt. So,
Yeah.
but I burns a lot of incense. I burns a lot of sage, and,
Yeah.
and my shrine is in my studio. So it's
Yeah.
it's part of a whole, but not that you enter one place and that's sacred and the other one is not, or vice versa.
Yeah.
That's more or less how it is. It's mm, yeah, it's what's most important is when I feel the energy is heavy.
Hmm.
I try to I just leave the studio. I walk outside, and then it's something maybe more that it belongs to me, not to the place. So I just it helps a lot to move the body, not to be too much in the head.
Yeah, that's really true. I went for a walk this morning. It was quite helpful. Yeah. Oh, well, this has been so interesting, and I just love your work so much. And yeah, it's like really interesting to hear more about how how your studio practice goes and how you develop a piece. So thank you so much. Oh, where can people find out more about your work if they want to check out your work? Mhm.
Um, Either my website is not super updated, but I'll do some updating soon. And my website is my name, michelamartello.com, or Instagram,
I'll
which is
definitely include
Michela
links to
Martello.
both.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll definitely include links to both in the description as well. Well, thank you so much, Michaela. It was so good to talk to you. And yeah, I'm excited to see you again soon and see more of your work. Mhm.
Thank you, Christy. You're very sweet and kind. I like to talk to you. You know how to listen and how to ask questions. Thank you.
Oh, thanks. Well, I look forward to talking to you again soon.
Okay.
Bye.
Ciao, grazie.
I hope you've enjoyed this episode of Down to Art. Thank you so much for being with us.